Good morning, friends. Today it's a rainy day. Yeah, it's just kind of very gray and seems to be a little windy. A little bit of rain going on too. So for a lot of people it's a depressing day, but you know what? It's, a little bit refreshing. I feel like the past summer it's always kind of been very sunny and hot and humid. And whenever it did rain, it was usually just for a very short period of time. We never really had like an actual rainy day. Um, if we did, it was very short lived. It was, the rain would come, last maybe maximum like 30 minutes and then eventually go away. So today, I'm doing another request. Have actually a list right here all the stuff, and now we're getting deep into the controversial stuff. Someone requested that I talk about Israel-Palestine situation, which is for a lot of people a very touchy subject. And I have to say, at one point, I did have some strong views, although I wouldn't say they were strong, but they were definitely they definitely existed, and I think that changed for a lot of me. First of all, my views at the time are very much pro-Israel, but until I actually visited Israel, things actually kind of shifted for me, or they changed for me. Not for any particular reason. There was no real set event that happened to me where I was like, I changed my mind. It just sort of, I realized that Israel is just a country. It's just a piece of land, right? And I'm a very spiritual person. I like to practice the Jewish faith to some degree. And when I went to Israel for the first time, or the first time that I actually remember, the last time I went was when I was like 2 or 3 years old, of which I don't remember. So this time I actually went and experienced it. I have to say I was kind of like, it was okay. I didn't really feel like this was my home, or this was like the place for me to live. I did like it. I did find that it was a very nice place, a very nice culture, but I didn't feel like I fit in there. Like, I didn't feel like this was the place where I was like, oh yeah, this is like my home. This is like my roots coming from here. I didn't feel like that whatsoever. I felt more of that when going into places in Central and Eastern Europe. When I went to Czech Republic or I went to Poland, these places felt more like a place that I sort of belonged in a sense, right? Because that's where actually my ancestry comes from. So in that sense, I just sort of stopped having an opinion about it because I don't live there and I don't have any reason to have an opinion about it, and I feel like I shouldn't. It's not my place to have an opinion. I live in Canada, I live in Montreal. Just because I'm Jewish, it doesn't make me feel like as a Jew this is the place for me. It's a piece of land. To me, the concept of Israel in the religious sense is the idealized state for humanity, and that place is not an ideal place to live, as you can clearly see with all the war and bloodshed and people dying over like a piece of land the size of Rhode Island. It just seems ridiculous at this point to attribute that to the Holy Land or whatnot. And being pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, I don't really see any reason to. They're both just governments and borders that aren't really that special. There's nothing special about Israel or special about Palestine. They're both just kind of countries. I will say that Israel has had a lot of development in the tech sector, and that's pretty much the only aspect of Israel that I particularly care for, because a lot of our technology comes from there. So in that sense, that's the only part that I'm pro-Israel. Everything else is just kind of like, okay, there's a lot of shady stuff that's going on over there, and it's not, my place to have an opinion. And I used to have an opinion, and I used to feel strongly about it. Now, as I've gotten older, it's kind of just, I feel like there's no reason to. There's no reason to feel strongly about that kind of thing. Um, so, the way I look at it is you have these two groups of people that just hate each other, and then there's a lot of groups of people who just want to live there and live in peace, and that's, those are the people that really matter in this situation. Everyone else is just kind of playing, they're playing a little game of ideology, and it's just kind of stupid. It's the same shit that's happening over here with this left versus right dilemma here. It's just, it's just a stupid game, and people are telling you have to pick a side when, it's like it's an imaginary thing. It's not real. It's not based in anything that's, concrete. It's just these ideologies that are fighting it out, and then people's lives are affected in the process. So, there's not much else to go forward with that. I will say that it's, it is a tricky situation. There's nothing really that can alleviate the problems in that region whatsoever. There's a lot of problems, and honestly, I feel like if you're a Jew and you feel like you want to go to the chosen land or the Holy Land and the place that's like for Jews, probably best place would be New York City, Los Angeles. Those places are probably a lot more friendlier to Jews, and they have actually, I feel like an open mind towards Judaism. They're very Jewish dominated cities. You think about, in the text, it's the land of milk and honey. Well, you can pretty much buy milk and honey everywhere nowadays. So, you can argue that the whole world is Israel right now, because you can, buy milk and honey anywhere you go. It doesn't necessarily need to come from a specific plot of land. So, whenever you have strong Zionists or Jews that believe strongly in Israel, after being in Israel actually, and then realizing it's like, yeah, you know what, this place isn't for me. I realize it's like, okay, there's no reason to care so much about Israel just as a nation. I care about the people whose lives are being lost, whether they're Muslim or Jewish or Christian or whatever. I think that it's a very tricky and fucked up situation, and it's not going to be alleviated by this war, or giving all the land back to the Palestinians, or the Palestinians just giving up all of their land. It's a very difficult thing to do. So I don't have the answers to solve these questions. The way I would sort it out is just people to get rid of their ideological beliefs and stop believing that a piece of land is destined towards you, or you feel like because something happened in the past. This is both for Jews and Muslims, by the way. Muslims believe that they deserve the land because of what happened in the past, and Jews believe they deserve the land because of what happened in the past to them, but just a lot longer ago. So, it's all relative. They all have the same views, basically. They all think that they deserve this piece of land. And, land is land. It's not going to change anywhere else depending on your climate. In terms of actual climate, Israel's not really the most vegetative place. I would rather want to live in Greece or Italy or somewhere in the Mediterranean, where there's actually a lot more opportunity to have farms and land and plentiful resources. Israel is just kind of in the desert, kind of in the Mediterranean, and doesn't really fit that ideal situation. So anyway, those are my thoughts. If anyone else has different thoughts and they're very strong about it, that's whatever you want to believe. But at the end of the day, it's just a shitty situation, and there's not much you can do to change that except just move out of there and try to move to a place that's actually safe, which I feel like most people should do if they live there. You'll probably end up a lot happier and not live in fear or hatred as much. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.